My name looked strange at the bottom of the last page. One signature. One slow stroke of a pen. Years of promises disappeared into black ink. The lawyer slid the document toward Claire. She didn't hesitate. Her signature came quickly, neat and confident, as if she had already practiced writing the end of our marriage in her mind. He gathered the papers into a folder. Everything is complete. That was all. No speech about regret. No warning about second chances. Just complete. I rested the pen on the table and folded my hands together before they could shake. Across from me, Claire adjusted the sleeve of her expensive gray jacket. She still hadn't looked directly at me since we walked into the office. The woman I once believed I would grow old with couldn't even spare me one honest glance. A strange thought crossed my mind. Maybe this wasn't the day I lost my wife. Maybe I had been losing her for years. The lawyer cleared his throat. There are copies for both of you. Claire picked hers up immediately. Mine stayed on the table for several seconds before I reached for it. The folder felt heavier than paper should. I almost laughed at that. Funny how a few sheets could weigh more than a lifetime. Outside the office window, people hurried across the sidewalk. Some smiled. Some carried coffee. Life kept moving while mine stood completely still. Claire finally spoke. I hope this makes things easier. Her voice was calm, professional, like she was closing another business meeting. I searched her face for something. Pain, fear, anything. Instead, I found the same quiet distance that had slowly filled our home. It probably will. She gave a small nod. Neither of us moved. There was nothing left to fight over. The arguments had ended long before today. As I stood, another memory forced its way into my mind. A cold dinner waited on our dining table. I remembered checking the clock every few minutes. 7:30, 8:15, 9. The pasta had turned dry. The candles had burned almost completely away. It had been our 5th wedding anniversary. My phone finally buzzed. Working late. Don't wait for me. No apology. No explanation. I ate alone. When Claire finally came home after midnight, she walked past the untouched flowers without slowing down. You should have gone to bed. I wanted us to eat together. She loosened her heels and rubbed her forehead. It was just dinner, Ethan. Just dinner. Those words stayed with me much longer than the meal. I didn't realize then that it wasn't about food. It was about choosing each other. And somewhere along the way, I had stopped being her choice. The lawyer opened the office door. Claire stepped into the hallway first. I followed several feet behind. Neither of us reached for the elevator button at the same time anymore. Small habits disappear before love does. Outside the building, the afternoon air felt colder than I expected. Claire finally turned toward me. You'll be okay. It sounded less like comfort and more like certainty, as if she already knew I couldn't survive without her. I wanted to tell her she was wrong. Instead, I simply nodded. She waited. Her fingers rested lightly against her purse strap. She was expecting something. A plea. A promise. One last desperate attempt to change her mind. That had always been my role. Whenever we argued, I apologized first. Whenever we drifted apart, I reached across the distance. Whenever she closed another door, I knocked until she opened it again. Today my hand stayed at my sides. A small wrinkle appeared between her eyebrows. It disappeared almost immediately. Take care of yourself. You too. She walked toward her car. I watched until it disappeared into traffic. Only then did I realize I had been holding my breath. Back at the apartment, the silence greeted me before I even unlocked the door. Everything looked exactly the same. The framed wedding photo still stood on the shelf. The couch where we watched movies. The kitchen where I had cooked hundreds of dinners. None of it felt like home anymore. My suitcase waited beside the front door. I had packed it the night before. 1 week's worth of clothes. A few books. My laptop. Everything else suddenly seemed unimportant. My eyes landed on another memory. A stack of unopened birthday cards. Mine. Every year I bought one for Claire. Every year I spent hours choosing the right words. Last year she handed me a gift bag before rushing out to another meeting. I'll celebrate properly this weekend. The weekend never came. Work always arrived first. I opened the bedroom closet. Half of it belonged to me. Or at least it used to. Several empty hangers swung gently after I removed the last jacket. The space looked larger than it should. Funny how absence could take up so much room. My phone rested on the bedside table. Months of old messages filled the screen. Mine were long. Hopeful. Dinner's ready whenever you get home. Drive safely. Miss you today. We should spend Saturday together. Most remained unread for hours. Some until the next day. Others never showed the small scene mark at all. I stopped scrolling. There wasn't any point. The answers had always been there. I just refused to read them. The wedding ring pressed against my finger. Removing it should have been easy. Instead, it refused to move. I twisted it gently. Again. Again. Finally, it slipped free. A pale circle remained where it had rested for 7 years. I carried the ring into the living room. The coffee table stood between the couch and the window. That was where we signed our first apartment lease, where we planned vacations, where we dreamed about children. Today it became the place where I left the last symbol of my marriage. The ring touched the wood with the softest sound. It echoed through the room anyway. I picked up my suitcase. My hand paused on the doorknob. Part of me still hoped the door would open before I touched it. Claire would rush inside, tell me we had made a terrible mistake, ask me to stay. Nothing happened. The hallway outside was empty. I locked the apartment one final time. Each step away from that door felt impossible. Each step also felt strangely honest. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. Sunlight spilled across the sidewalk. My phone vibrated. Claire. One message. You'll come back after you've calmed down. I read it once. Then I pressed delete. The screen went dark. Without looking back, I adjusted the suitcase handle and kept walking. The first morning alone felt louder than any argument Claire and I had ever had. No alarm from her side of the bed. No hurried footsteps across the hallway. No coffee brewing while she answered work emails before sunrise. The apartment greeted me with empty rooms and familiar walls that suddenly belonged to a stranger. I stood in the kitchen longer than I needed to. Only one coffee mug waited on the counter. My hand reached for another before stopping halfway. Old habits do not disappear because a judge signs a piece of paper. They disappear one painful morning at a time. The phone stayed on the table while I made breakfast. A week earlier, I would have checked it every few minutes. Maybe Claire had written again. Maybe she regretted everything. Maybe today would be different. Instead, the screen remained dark. I finished eating without touching it. That small victory didn't erase the pain. It simply reminded me that I was still moving. A loud knock echoed through the apartment. Benjamin walked in carrying 2 paper bags. You still remember how to unlock a door? A tired smile escaped me. Barely. He placed breakfast sandwiches on the table even though I had already eaten. You've lost weight. I've been busy. You've been hiding. His words landed harder than he intended. Benjamin leaned against the counter. You know what bothers me? I shrugged. You keep acting like your life ended. It feels that way. He folded his arms. No. His voice stayed calm. It feels different. That's not the same thing. I didn't answer. He glanced around the apartment. You built this place around Claire. My eyes followed his. The books she picked. The paintings she loved. The furniture she chose. Even after she left, the apartment still looked like it belonged to her. Benjamin walked toward the window. What about the studio? I closed it years ago. I know. You also know why. He turned slowly. You closed your dream because she wanted stability. It was my choice. No. His head shook. It became your habit. The room grew quiet. Benjamin had never been cruel. He simply refused to lie to me. I found the old office keys. He placed them on the table. They're yours. I don't think I'm ready. When will you be? No answer came. He smiled anyway. I'll meet you there tomorrow. I never agreed. You don't have to. He grabbed one sandwich before walking toward the door. I know you'll come. The apartment felt empty again after he left. This time the silence carried something else. Possibility. Not hope. Not yet. Just possibility. The old architectural studio smelled like dust and forgotten plans. I unlocked the front door with hands that remembered every movement. Sunlight pushed through the windows, revealing furniture covered in white sheets. My drafting table stood exactly where I had left it. I brushed my fingers across the surface. Years disappeared in one breath. Back then I believed I could design buildings that lasted forever. Instead, I couldn't even protect my own marriage. Benjamin carried a box inside. Still standing. Barely. He laughed. So are you. We spent hours cleaning. Neither of us spoke much. Sometimes the best conversations happen without words. By afternoon, the windows were open. Fresh air replaced stale memories. Benjamin picked up his jacket. I'll leave you alone. You trust me not to lock the place again? I trust you to remember who you were. The door closed behind him. I sat in front of the drafting table. The blank paper felt intimidating. Weeks earlier, I couldn't even imagine tomorrow. Now tomorrow waited inside an empty page. A pencil rested between my fingers. One line, then another. Slowly, a house began taking shape. Nothing extraordinary, just clean lines, strong foundations, large windows facing the sunrise. When I finished the final sketch, I leaned back. It wasn't my best work. It didn't have to be. It was the first thing I had created for myself in years. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. The office door opened carefully. Ethan? The familiar voice surprised me. Olivia stood there holding a folder. A warm smile reached her eyes before either of us spoke. I wasn't sure this place was still open. I'm starting again. I'm glad. She stepped inside, looking around the room. It still smells like fresh pencils. I laughed quietly. I forgot that. I didn't. She placed the folder on my desk. My company needs an architect. You came here for work and to see if you were okay. There was no pity in her voice. Only honesty. I'm getting there. I can see that. Her eyes settled on the sketch. You drew this today? I nodded. It's beautiful. No. A small smile crossed my face. It's a beginning. She understood the difference. That's even better. We spent the next hour discussing ideas, projects, deadlines, materials. The conversation never drifted toward my divorce. She treated me like an architect, not a broken man. When she left, my office felt a little brighter. That evening curiosity pulled me towards something I had avoided. My old phone backup. Thousands of messages, photos, emails, pieces of a life that no longer existed. I opened our conversation. Years of messages stretched across the screen. Then I noticed something strange. Many of mine showed a small gray mark. Delivered. Never opened. Confused, I checked another month. The same thing. Then another. My heartbeat slowed. Dozens of messages. Birthday wishes. Anniversary plans. Simple notes asking how her day was going. None had been read. I searched through old emails. An automatic company setting caught my attention. Priority work notifications had muted personal messages during business hours. Claire had enabled it years ago. Work always came first. Without realizing it, she had buried my words beneath meetings and deadlines. I wasn't ignored because she hated me. I was ignored because I ranked below everything else. That truth hurt more than anger ever could. I closed the phone gently. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to explain. Across the city, I imagined Claire inside the apartment we once shared. She had wanted freedom, more time, fewer responsibilities. Maybe she finally had all of it. The image refused to leave my mind. Her eating dinner alone, walking past my empty closet, finding only one coffee mug in the cabinet. I wondered if the apartment sounded different without me. Then I stopped myself. Those thoughts belonged to the man who waited for unread messages. I wasn't that man anymore. Days passed. The phone stayed in my pocket more often. The studio slowly came back to life. Blueprints covered the walls. New clients called. Each small success added another brick beneath my feet. I still miss Claire. Love doesn't disappear because you decide it should. But the pain no longer controlled every hour. A week later, Olivia stopped by again. You ready? For what? She held up 2 invitations. The Regional Architecture Awards. I frowned. I haven't attended one in years. Exactly. I don't think I belong there. She smiled. Then let's remind them that you do. The ballroom buzzed with conversation. Architects, designers, investors. Faces I hadn't seen in years. Some recognized me immediately. "Ethan, it's been a long time." "It has. You coming back?" "I already have." Those words surprised even me. Olivia nudged my shoulder. "Told you." A waiter passed with drinks. She picked up 2 glasses and handed one to me. "Relax. I'm trying." I noticed. A genuine laugh escaped before I could stop it. It felt strange, natural, real. Then the room grew still inside my mind. Near the entrance stood Claire. Ryan walked beside her, talking about something that made him smile. Her attention drifted across the ballroom. Then our eyes met. She expected to find the man who couldn't live without her. Instead, she found me smiling beside someone who believed in me. The confidence on her face cracked. Disbelief slowly replaced it. For the first time since the divorce, Claire looked like the one who had no idea what came next. The applause lasted only a few seconds. The feeling stayed much longer. My name appeared on the large screen beside a photo of one of my new designs, and people I hadn't spoken to in years walked over with warm smiles and firm handshakes. "You disappeared for too long. I'm glad you're back. We should work together again." Every conversation reminded me of something I had forgotten. I had a life before I became someone's quiet shadow. Olivia stood beside me with a proud smile. "I knew they'd remember your work. I wasn't sure they'd remember me." They never forgot. She lifted her glass. "To new beginnings." I touched my glass against hers. "To building something worth keeping." Those words carried more meaning than anyone else in the room could understand. The studio became busier every week. Blueprints covered every table. Phone calls filled the afternoons. New clients arrived with fresh ideas and impossible deadlines. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, I welcomed the challenge. The work demanded every part of my attention. That left less room for old memories. One afternoon, Benjamin stopped by carrying a box of coffee. He looked around the office and let out a low whistle. "Looks like I was right. You usually are." "I'll remember you admitted that." A laugh escaped before I could stop it. Benjamin walked toward the wall where my newest designs were displayed. "This one." He pointed at a modern lakeside home. "My favorite. It started as a rough sketch." "So did you." His grin widened. "Now look at both of you." I shook my head. "You really enjoy giving speeches." "I enjoy watching my little brother stand up again." The warmth in his voice stayed with me after he left. Years ago, I thought strength meant carrying every burden alone. Now I understood that healing often began when someone reminded you who you were. Even with my life moving forward, memories still arrived without warning. A certain song, a restaurant, the smell of Claire's favorite perfume on a stranger walking past. Some wounds closed slowly. Others simply became easier to carry. The difference mattered. I heard bits of Claire's life through mutual friends. Nothing dramatic, just small pieces. Long hours at work. Another promotion under discussion. Ryan spending more and more time beside her during meetings. Everyone assumed they would eventually become a couple. The thought surprised me, not because it hurt, because it barely did. That frightened me more than pain ever could. Love had once filled every corner of my life. Now it occupied only quiet moments. Several weeks later, I attended another industry gathering. Ryan approached me near the entrance. He looked uncomfortable. "Ethan, it's been a while." He slipped his hands into his pockets. "I wanted to tell you something before you heard it somewhere else." I waited. "I'm moving to London." "Congratulations." It wasn't an easy decision. I imagine it wasn't. His smile never reached his eyes. "There are opportunities there I can't refuse." A long pause settled between us. Then he surprised me. "I hope you know something." I raised an eyebrow. "Claire never cheated on you with me." "I know." His expression changed. "You do." "I blamed you at first." I glanced toward the crowded room. "But broken things don't fall apart because one person walks by." He nodded slowly. "I cared about her." "I believe you. But I wasn't the reason your marriage ended." "I know." Another pause. "I hope she finds peace." The words sounded honest. He offered his hand. I accepted it. "Take care of yourself." "You too." As he disappeared into the crowd, I realized something important. The enemy I had imagined for months had never truly existed. The real damage had come from years of emotional distance, not from another man. Life rarely warns you before changing direction. One rainy afternoon, Olivia rushed into my office carrying a newspaper. "You've seen this?" She placed it on my desk. The headline covered half the page. A major project managed by Claire's company had failed after serious planning mistakes. Millions of dollars lost. Clients leaving. Executives under pressure. I stared at the article longer than I expected. Olivia studied my face. "You okay?" "I don't know." "You don't have to celebrate." "I'm not." "You also don't have to save her." Her words settled quietly inside me. She was right. Some battles were no longer mine. That evening I drove past the apartment I once called home. Not because I planned to stop, just because the road happened to lead there. One light glowed in the bedroom window. Only one. Years ago, Claire always worked late into the night. Back then I waited beside that same window until I saw her car. Now someone else waited. Loneliness. A week later, another piece of news reached me. Margaret had removed Claire from several important projects after the company's failure. The woman who always praised ambition had suddenly become distant. Success creates many friends. Failure introduces the truth. I couldn't see what happened inside Claire's apartment. I didn't need to. I knew every room. The hallway, the kitchen, the bedroom where one side of the bed now remained untouched. The dining table where only one plate waited at night. Sometimes imagination hurts because it knows exactly where to look. An unexpected package arrived at my studio. Inside was an old notebook. Mine. I recognized the worn leather cover immediately. A small note rested on top. "Found this while cleaning old storage. Thought you'd want it back. Building manager." I opened the first page. My handwriting filled every line. Plans. Dreams. Sketches. Not buildings. A family. One page listed places Claire and I wanted to visit. Another described the house I hoped we would build together. There were names for future children. Weekend traditions. Holiday plans. Promises to myself. Always make time for her. Never let work come first. Grow old together. The final pages stopped halfway through a sentence. That was around the time our marriage started falling apart. I closed the journal carefully. Some dreams don't end with loud explosions. Sometimes they simply fade because only one person keeps carrying them. Days later, Benjamin called. "You busy?" "A little. I ran into someone today." "Who?" "Claire." My hand froze above the blueprint. "How is she?" He hesitated. "Different." "Different how?" "Like someone who finally realized the house was on fire after the roof collapsed." I didn't answer. He sighed. "She asked about you." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. And that you're finally smiling again." The next afternoon, Olivia stopped by. She noticed the journal lying on my desk. "You wrote all this?" "A long time ago." She flipped through one page before closing it again. "Someone was deeply in love." I was. Were. I smiled sadly. "I don't know what to call it now." She rested her hand lightly on the cover. "The love was real. So was the pain. Both can be true." That evening, another truth reached me through Benjamin. Claire had discovered something while sorting old documents at the apartment. Years earlier, an international architecture firm had offered me a position overseas. A dream opportunity, double the salary, global projects. I had quietly turned it down, not because I lacked courage, because Claire had just received the biggest promotion of her career. I refused to ask her to leave everything behind for me. I never even told her about the offer. She found the rejection letter tucked inside old files. Along with my journal, she finally learned that I hadn't chosen a smaller life because I was afraid. I had chosen our marriage. She simply never knew. Rain hammered against the studio windows late one evening. Everyone else had gone home. I locked the final cabinet and reached for my coat. A shadow stood outside the glass door. A familiar figure, soaked by the storm. Claire. Her hair clung to her face. Her hands trembled slightly. The old wedding ring rested in her open palm. Neither of us moved. The rain spoke louder than either of us could. Rain ran down the glass door between us. Claire stood outside with the wedding ring resting in her open palm. Neither of us moved. The office lights reflected against the wet sidewalk, making the distance between us look even longer than it was. I unlocked the door. She stepped inside slowly, careful not to leave puddles across the floor. Water dripped from her coat onto the welcome mat. "You'll catch a cold." A faint smile appeared, then disappeared almost immediately. "You still worry. It has nothing to do with the past." The words came out gently. Even so, they landed harder than I expected. She lowered her eyes. "I know." I walked toward the small coffee machine in the corner. "Sit down." She obeyed without another word. The room smelled of fresh coffee and damp clothes. Months ago, I would have rushed to comfort her. Tonight, I simply placed a warm cup on the table between us. Her fingers wrapped around it. "They're freezing." "I didn't notice." "You walked here?" She nodded. I needed the time. The wedding ring still rested in her other hand. She slowly pushed it across the table. "I think this belongs to you." My eyes stayed on the small circle of gold. "It doesn't. You left it behind." "I did. I kept hoping you'd come back for it." "I wasn't planning to." The answer stole the last bit of hope from her face. She took a slow breath. "I found your journal." I didn't speak. I read every page. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Her voice trembled. "You wanted children." "Yes." "You picked names." "I did." "You planned trips I never knew about." My hands rested quietly on the table. "There were many things you never knew." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. "I found the letter too." I already knew which one. The offer from the international firm. Another nod. "You turned it down because of me." "I did." "Why didn't you tell me?" "What would have changed?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The answer didn't exist. "You should have gone." "I chose my marriage, and I never even noticed." Her shoulders dropped. "I thought you were happy staying here." "I was happy." A painful smile crossed my face, because I believed we were building something together. The room became very quiet. She stared into the untouched coffee. "I thought success would make everything better." "It made you busier." I kept promising I'd slow down. "I remember. Every promotion felt like one more step." She laughed bitterly. "I never realized every step took me farther away from you." I leaned back in my chair. "I wasn't asking you to give up your dreams." "I know. I only wanted a place inside them." Her eyes closed. "I gave meetings the time I should have given you." "You did." "I answered strangers before answering my husband." Another quiet nod. "I always believed you'd still be there tomorrow." The words hung between us. I was. She looked up. Until I wasn't. The rain had become lighter. Neither of us rushed the conversation. There was no point. The truth deserved more than hurried words. Claire reached into her purse. A folded document appeared. She placed it on the table. "I went to the hospital last week." My heart skipped. "Are you sick?" "No." "Then why?" "A stress attack." She gave a tired laugh. "They thought it might be my heart." I glanced at the form. Emergency contact. The space beside my name had been crossed out. Another name had never been added. I didn't know who to write. She brushed her thumb across the paper. My hand kept trying to write yours. The page remained between us. I wasn't allowed anymore. I looked away for a moment, not because I was angry, because I remembered every hospital visit during our marriage, every fever, every injury, every late-night drive. I had always been there. Now someone else would have to be, or no one. Days passed after that meeting. Claire began calling. Not every hour. Not desperately. Just once every few days. Most calls ended before voicemail. I didn't block her. I simply let the silence answer. One afternoon, she came to the studio carrying a cardboard box. My things. I opened it carefully. Old photo albums. A sweater she used to wear. Books. A coffee mug. Small pieces of a life that no longer fit anywhere. "You don't have to keep these." "I know. I just couldn't throw them away." "I understand." She looked around the studio. The walls were now covered with framed designs. Awards stood on a shelf near the entrance. Clients moved through the front office with smiles and conversations. Life had returned. Not the old one. A better one. "You built all this." "I'm still building." "I used to think you needed me." "I believe that too." And now, I looked toward the drafting room where another project waited. I learned I needed myself first. She lowered her head. I wish I had learned that before losing you. Later that week, Margaret visited my office. The last person I expected to see. She extended her hand. I owe you an apology. I accepted the handshake. For what? I encouraged Claire to chase every opportunity. Her expression grew heavy. I praised long hours. I rewarded impossible schedules. I called balance a weakness. She sighed. I helped create someone who forgot how to go home. I didn't answer. There isn't much I can fix now. No, there isn't. She nodded once. I hope you keep building. I plan to. As she walked away, I realized something. Even the people who once admired Claire's ambition now understood its cost. Olivia noticed the change before I did. We were reviewing blueprints when she closed the folder. You seem lighter. I'm sleeping again. I'm glad. She smiled warmly. You don't have to explain anything. I know. And you don't owe anyone another relationship just because you're lonely. I don't want loneliness making my choices. Good. She gathered her notes. Healing takes its own time. She never tried to become Claire's replacement. She simply respected the man I was becoming. That quiet kindness meant more than grand promises ever could. A week later, Claire knocked on my apartment door. The final box of belongings sat between us. I found these in the storage room. I carried it inside without opening it. She remained in the hallway. Neither of us tried to shorten the distance. I've been thinking. I know. I spent years chasing promotions. Her eyes searched mine. I won almost every race. But there was never anyone waiting to celebrate with me. The hallway felt smaller than before. I thought success would fill the empty places. It doesn't. No. A tear slipped down her cheek. This time she let it fall. I finally understand what you carried. I stayed quiet. When you came home to cold dinners. When your messages stayed unread. When every promise became another meeting. She covered her face for a moment. I gave you loneliness while standing right beside you. You did. I can't change it. No. I can't ask for those years back. No. She drew a slow breath. If there were one thing I could trade, her voice almost disappeared. I'd trade every promotion. She struggled to finish. For one more ordinary evening eating dinner with you. My hand rested on the doorknob. The words reached the part of my heart that had once waited beside candles and cold plates. That man deserved peace. So did the one standing here now. I forgive you. Hope flashed across her face. The next sentence gently took it away. But I'm not coming back. Her shoulders trembled. She nodded because she already knew. I offered one last small smile. Not filled with anger. Not filled with victory. Only acceptance. Then I closed the door gently. The sunrise reached my office before I did. Golden light stretched across the drafting tables, climbed the walls, and settled over framed blueprints that had once existed only inside my imagination. Months earlier, I had walked into empty rooms carrying nothing except a suitcase and a broken heart. Now the same door welcomed employees, clients, laughter, and the quiet rhythm of work that belonged to me again. I unlocked the front door. The smell of fresh coffee drifted through the studio. A young architect waved from across the room. Morning, Ethan. Morning. The Wilson family approved the final design. A smile came naturally. That's good news. They want you at the groundbreaking. I wouldn't miss it. Life had become wonderfully ordinary again. I no longer measured my days by unread messages. I measured them by homes I helped create. Benjamin arrived just before lunch, carrying his usual paper bag. I figured you'd forget to eat. I've been busy. He laughed. Now that's a better excuse than hiding in your apartment. We shared sandwiches while looking over a new project. He glanced around the studio. Proud of yourself yet? Working on it. You should hurry. I raised an eyebrow. Why? You've earned it. Those words settled somewhere deep inside me. Years ago, I searched for approval in Claire's eyes. Today, my brother's simple smile meant more than endless praise ever had. Olivia stopped by that afternoon with revised plans for a community center. She spread the drawings across my desk. I made a few changes. I studied them carefully. You solved the entrance problem. You taught me well. I only asked the right questions. She smiled. Exactly. There was comfort in our friendship. No pressure. No hidden expectations. No race towards something neither of us needed to define. As she packed her papers, she paused. Want to grab dinner after work? I'd like that. It doesn't have to mean anything. I know. It can just be dinner. I smiled. I think that's exactly what makes it special. That evening, I stopped by a small charity office on my way home. An elderly volunteer welcomed me warmly. Can I help you? I opened a small velvet box. The wedding ring rested inside. I'd like to donate this. She looked surprised. Are you certain? I picked up the ring one last time. It had once represented forever. Then it became a reminder of promises only one person kept. Now it was simply gold. Yes. She accepted the box carefully. We'll make sure it helps someone. As I walked back outside, my hand felt strangely light. Not because the ring was gone, because I no longer carried what it represented. A few weeks later, another piece of news reached me. Claire had resigned. No celebration followed. No promotion. No farewell party that anyone talked about. She quietly walked away from the company that had once meant everything to her. Benjamin called that evening. You heard? I did. What do you think? I stared through the office window. I hope she finds what she's looking for. And if that turns out to be you? I took my time answering. It won't. Life continued. Projects finished. New ones began. The nights grew easier. The mornings came with purpose instead of regret. One Saturday, I opened an old drawer while cleaning my apartment. A single envelope rested beneath several notebooks. My handwriting covered the front. For Claire. I didn't remember writing it. Curiosity slowly won. Inside waited a letter I had never mailed. Every line came from the version of me who still believed love could survive anything. I miss you. I know we're struggling. I'll keep trying for both of us if I have to. One day we'll laugh about all this. I folded the letter carefully. That man deserved kindness. He had loved honestly. He had simply loved alone. The envelope returned to the drawer. Not because I planned to send it, because some words belong to the past. They do not need another ending. Autumn arrived with cool mornings and clear skies. One afternoon, I attended the opening ceremony for a public garden my studio had helped design. Families wandered along the walking paths. Children laughed beside the fountain. It felt good knowing something I created would outlive me. As the crowd slowly thinned, a familiar voice reached me. Ethan. I turned. Claire stood near the entrance wearing a simple blue coat. No business suit. No phone pressed against her ear. She looked different. Not older. Just quieter. She walked over slowly. I wasn't sure you'd still be here. I almost left. I'm glad you didn't. A gentle breeze carried fallen leaves between us. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. I resigned. I heard. I kept thinking leaving the company would fix everything. Her fingers tightened around a small notebook. It didn't. I nodded. Some things can't be repaired after enough time passes. I know that now. She looked around the garden. It's beautiful. Thank you. You always built places where people wanted to stay. A sad smile touched her face. I just didn't stay. I watched children running along the stone path. The scene felt peaceful. Years ago, this conversation would have broken me. Now it simply made me grateful for the distance I had traveled. Claire opened the notebook. I've started writing things down. Like what? The moments I almost missed. She laughed softly. There are more than I expected. Another pause. I finally understand something. I waited. I didn't lose you in the courtroom. Her eyes glistened. I lost you every night. I chose work over dinner. She took a slow breath. Every message I never opened. Every promise I delayed. Every time I assumed you'd wait one more day. She closed the notebook. By the time I wanted to fight for us, her voice faded. You were the only one left standing. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to prove. She looked at me with calm acceptance. I don't expect another chance. You shouldn't. I only wanted you to know I finally see it. I believe you. Those 3 words seemed to lift something from her shoulders. Not hope, just honesty. She smiled through tired eyes. I'm happy you're doing well. Thank you. You look peaceful. I glanced toward the trees glowing beneath the late afternoon sun. I am. She nodded slowly. I used to think silence meant someone had given up, and now I know silence can mean they've finally healed. The breeze carried another wave of leaves across the path. She extended her hand. I accepted it. No promises, no lingering touch, only gratitude for everything we had survived. I hope your future is kind to you. And yours. She turned first. I watched her walk toward the parking lot without calling her name. There was no reason to. Some goodbyes become complete only when nobody asks the other person to stay. The sun dipped lower as I started toward my car. Months ago, I believed walking away meant losing everything. Now I understood the truth. Walking away had given me back the one person I could never afford to lose. Myself. I drove home beneath a sky painted with gold and quiet blue. The road ahead stretched farther than I could see. For the first time in years, that no longer frightened me. I wasn't chasing the past. I wasn't waiting for someone to choose me. I already had, and that choice was enough.